Hello everyone, today is April 24th, 2013, and I always say I'm going to do a short one, so I won't say anything about that this time. I'll just start giving you what I find to be of interest right now. You notice that the man who is accused of the Ricin attack has now been exonerated. You know, the FBI and all these police agencies, they don't give us the right information. You know, Boston is an example. But that's okay if they give us the wrong information and have to clarify it or correct it later. But don't dare us do that. You know what I mean? And with all the disinformation and the cloud and fog of war out there that they have, of course it's going to be tough for us to find out what's going on. But when you see them make this mistake, you're just supposed to, put it aside and forget it. The real reason for that, of course, that whole attack, just like the one in the early 2000s, the anthrax attack then, was to take the people's mind off of what was actually going on, to make the government look like a victim. And that's kind of what happened here. But it wasn't enough to make it stick, so they've withdrawn it. Remember, the anthrax attack came from a laboratory at Fort Detrick, Maryland, back then in the early 2000s. So, like I say, we look at all this information, we try to pick it together because there are a lot of people that don't trust the government. Now, that's an indication of something. There are a lot of people that would be yes men, company men, whatever, and will always go along with what a certain. There are people out there that will believe me no matter what. And there are people out there that won't believe me no matter what. And then you have this big bell curve in the middle, and everybody's trying to get those people. Well, not so much me. I'm going to tell you again why I do this. So I am never approached by anybody who said, "Roy, why did you remain silent?" That is my only reason for doing this. Okay? Not so with the government. Not so with corporations. These people have profits they're trying to protect, okay, or power. So like I said, we make an error and we're so bad, but they can make an error and we're just supposed to let it go by. Not so. We're not going to let that happen. Okay, Glenn Beck, I guess you all know this by now. He made the Saudi connection, and that was big news for him. And we already kind of knew that before, that the Saudis were involved. They always seem to be. The situation with this Saudi young man being there at the bombing scene, and then being called a person of interest and all that, and now he's going to be deported, and of course Napolitano was denying that was going to happen. My gosh, he even deserved a visit, from what I understand, from Michelle Obama. Wow. And then the Saudis have an emergency meeting with Obama about getting this kid out of here. Wow. No, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and if people don't want to see it, it's because they don't want to. Okay. I wanted to bring up something. There's a guy by the name of Tony Carlucci. He doesn't live in the United States, but he has an excellent blog that I think you'd like to go look at. It's called landdestroyer.blogspot.com. Again, landdestroyer.blogspot.com, if you just want to go out and get some other information. Information in this type of, I'm going to use Alex Jones' phrase here, in this kind of information war, this type of propaganda war, and that's really what you would call this anywhere else in the world. It's a propaganda war, the two sides. Propaganda can be good, it can be bad, it can be indifferent. And I should probably explain that to you, but propaganda isn't necessarily a nefarious term. It's how it's used, okay? So there is a propaganda war going on in the United States. So anytime that's the case, you need as much information as you can get to make an intelligent decision. Yeah, you're going to get bad information, you're going to get good information. You got to sift through it and see where the common ground is on those things, and then make your decision from there. Don't forget to use foreign sources. It's very important to do that. I had somebody ask me where I get my information. They thought it was only from Alex Jones. No, that's not the case at all. I've been training this. I know to use all source information. Okay, I take it from everywhere, make up what's basically called a decision matrix, and then decide where the commonalities lie, and then look for motives and things like that. So, there's a lot more to this than what meets the eye. But at any rate, you can't have too much information. Information is like food in a famine. It's like bullets in a fight. You can't have too much. All right, so just keep looking. Because that's really important. Sorry, I keep saying It's a little early. I still haven't gotten a lot of sleep here. I've been putting a lot of things together. I've heard a lot of the commentators say this, and I'm going to kind of rephrase it. They say that with all that the FBI has done in this Boston thing, and a lot of other things, the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, where they were implicated in actually making the explosives, and Mr. Samil, the supposed patsy, he wired himself and proved the FBI had done this and brought that explosive in there, which resulted in the death of 6 people and like 1,000 injuries. And like $500 million. But oh no, see, that was just an error in our op plan. Yeah, they can excuse themselves. We should not excuse them. And this is what these people are saying. They say the FBI. Oh, and then I got to jump back. I do that a lot. The situation with these brothers. We now know the Tsarnaev brothers were, at least the older one, Tamerlan, has been under observation by the U.S. government, particularly the FBI, the CIA, and the State Department, for 5 years. Even the Russians warned the U.S. FBI that Tamerlan might be a double agent or a U.S. agent. They didn't call him a double agent. Trying to say that they didn't know who these guys were, especially when they put out those videos, is hogwash. Okay, so I throw all that in there before I say this. A lot of these other commentators that I'm hearing are saying, the FBI, and these are my words, not theirs, the FBI is either incompetent or complicit. I think they use the word incompetent, but I don't think any of them have used the word complicit. There are no other possibilities here, okay? There are none under the circumstances. And I'm sorry to say that. I've had cause to be working with the FBI on a personal basis, not because I was the suspect, and because of my law enforcement background, where we had to use the FBI for any number of things. For instance, the FBI takes over investigations on military installations that rise to that level. The FBI also is engaged in the military with sting operations and things like that, and that's where I fit in at that other level. Personally, I actually went to the FBI with some information once, and I saw how they reacted to it. So I know that the organization, at least at the top levels, not necessarily the lower agents, the guys that are taking their oaths seriously, they're great people. The particular special agent that helped me in my particular problem, he was a superb individual, but he did tell me, what you're telling me is something that will probably be covered up at the higher echelons of the FBI. And when it was, he apologized for it. Okay, so I've had personal experience with these people. I know exactly how they think. So another way to say that about the FBI is that it is a manifestation of conflict of interest. In and of itself. It is a conflict of interest. It's sad what we're seeing here. Okay, the Boston PD labeled the 2 terrorists initially as Sunil Drapapo, I think was his name. I'm not really good with this foreign language stuff, and Mike Mulugeta, I believe. I have not followed up on this, and of course I just said that the Russians identified Tamerlan as a U.S. agent some time ago. But what's interesting about this is that again the police can get it wrong if in fact they are wrong. Maybe the Boston PD had it right and the FBI doesn't. Who knows? But they're trying to say, well, the alternative media and the media in general has taken this too close to heart, and so it's confusing the investigation. No, the authorities put out this information. You remember those pictures? It was like the second day when the 4chan pictures came out, and there were those 2 guys on the front, one with a white hat and the other with the blue suit. Hey, even the government was saying these are it. And later, isn't it amazing that first pay, how close was that to the second pair? No blue athletic suit, but there was a white hat involved. Oh, and that brings up another thing. Trained terrorists aren't going to use a match to fire off C4 explosive. All right? Like the underwear bomber did, or the shoe bomber. Okay? C4 doesn't detonate that way. These guys weren't highly trained. They were patsies. It was obvious. And I understand that, there's a guy who actually witnessed, I guess it was a number of people that witnessed the underwear bomber, helped on the plane by well-dressed men who obviously were intelligence assets. And if you followed that story at all, you know that the government was implicated in that, okay, allowing him to get on the plane. Well, didn't, even bypassing the scanners and all that? Oh, come on. Why do the American people in the Congress forget this stuff? Because you don't want to know. And I'm not talking to everybody out there, but it's like some of the government men out there and the disinfo guys and the trolls and the guys who like to lie and deceive. You got to wake up, guys. And I'm getting a lot of flack on my video to SF members, and I'm going to say it again here. By and large, those people are great people. I worked with them. I know how good they are. I'm not going to rehash all that. But you have this small group that do it for their own ego, or for money, or for power, or promises, or whatever. And I'm not going to go into all those. You guys can figure it out for yourself. But those people exist. And one of those guys is attacking me right now, and he's going to be really sad that he's doing that, because he's going to find out that he's barking up the wrong tree. But at any rate, that's another story. The point of all that is that, again, even supposed official organizations get information out there that either isn't right or is the fog of war. They deliberately put it out there to confuse us. The U.S. is giving, I think I heard, $123 million to Syrian rebels. When are we going to start learning our lesson? Because we don't want to learn our lesson. This is deliberate. This is to cause wars in the future. We went and we helped the Taliban, the Al-Qaeda, the Chechens, all that. And then supposedly the Chechens and Al-Qaeda attacks us at various stages, right? Okay, well now here we are. We're arming these Libyan rebels, and they're going to be our Chechens and our Al-Qaeda of the future. Our foreign policy is idiocy. And you people, I keep hearing this national security. We know more than you do. Folks, you know as well as I do, if you don't balance your checkbook, you're going to be in trouble. The government doesn't do that. You know very well that if you present to your child, the father and the mother, two different stories, that the child's going to be confused and not turn out very well, right? That's what our foreign policy is like. Mommy and daddy saying two different things, all right? Even our domestic policy. How long have we been subsidizing tobacco growers and yet telling people not to smoke? I mean, it's amazing to me what the American people put up with. It's just amazing. Gold. Gold has gone down. You've already heard me say why. What really surprised me about this, I'm not a financial analyst, far from it. Yes, I can balance my checkbook, but I'm not very good at much anything else. But, I've been quoted on some of these financial market blogs and newspapers and stuff for my information on the governor of Texas asking for his gold bullion back and being refused by the Federal Reserve, and then gold taking a tank. Gee, anybody could have seen that coming, especially if you've seen how these financial people control third world countries and stuff like that. And it's happening here. I've been asked to do a video on how a country is taken over, and its money system is one. Thomas Jefferson actually said it. Actually, Baron Rothschild said it. Let me have control of the currency of a country, and it doesn't matter who makes the laws. That's been said for almost 200 years now. So yeah, we're in trouble. They're doing to us what they've done to everybody else. Hagel is apparently given the go-ahead to launch against Syria and Iran. Oh, great. Here's another thing in the government. Are they a problem or are they not? The White House pretends like, oh, no, we don't want to do that. And then on the other side, we've got his Secretary of Defense saying to give the go-ahead. Here we are again. Mommy and Daddy aren't on the same sheet of music. CISPA. You know how dangerous that is. It is the Patriot Act of the Internet. And it'll probably pass. Every little chip that they do. And I've got to say this right now. I heard this the other day and I agree. The people really need to rise up. And just go to Washington and tell all those guys, there's some good guys in here. Rand Paul, you're good. Rubio, you're pretty good. Cruz, whatever. And then the Democrats, you Democrats out there probably have some on your side. But as a people, look at what they're doing. They pit us against each other. They do whatever they want. They serve one term and they get a lifetime retirement. They don't have to take themselves to Obamacare. Okay, look, they can inside trade. How much more do you want to put up with? We just need to go there and tell them, you're all fired, out of here, and then replace them with ordinary people who understand things. You don't need to have a big concept of, like they try to pretend like you need to, of foreign policy and all that. Most of that is made up like a lawyer makes up, the legal profession makes up words that you don't understand what they mean, because when they use them, they just mean a specific thing to them. That's all that is. Nations getting along is no different than you getting along with your neighbor. Most of you normal Americans who get along with your neighbors, you'd be able to come up with a better foreign policy than these idiots in the government. I got a little upset on that one, didn't I? Merkel in Europe, the prime minister of, or the chancellor of Germany, saying, to the other European countries, well, because of this financial thing, you're going to have to cede your sovereignty to Germany. I didn't look at Germany as the bad guy in all this at first. And they're still not. They're the tool of the European Union, actually. But boy, wow. Do you see what's happening here? They're just coming out with it. Cede your sovereignty. Give up your lands, your peoples, your sovereignty, your culture, whatever, and get in the system and get your stamp of approval. Be like everybody else. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Okay. A lot of people are accusing folks like me and many, many more of questioning the government, and they think that's silly. How bad that is. You people need to get in line and all that kind of thing. You guys don't have any evidence or whatever. The real question everybody should ask is, why are people in such large numbers coming to distrust the government? That's the question. Not that they do, but why? Where there's smoke, there's fire. People are starting to wake up. Who to blame is not as important as the end result. Okay, like this thing in Boston. How in the world did the American people put up with those jackbooted thug goons going into homes and hauling out men, women, and children, specifically the women and children, at gunpoint and treating them like animals? They're not even suspects. Looking for that one 19-year-old. America, that is your future. You think that Stalinist Russia was bad, or the Stasis, or the brown shirts in Germany? You haven't seen anything yet. These people that are in this government are power crazy. They're insane, and they're getting people in the police and in the military and all that because those are the type of people they want that don't think anything about empathy or consciousness, just about the power they have over somebody else. This is dangerous, and it's going to take us down. I'm telling you, it's going to do it because, well, if you don't understand history, go look at the Roman Empire. That ought to tell you something. Okay. I had a question this morning about how is Israel involved in all this. I want to make a point here, okay? Although I'm basically considered a Judeo-Christian tradition kind of guy, there are good and bad in everything, okay? And I don't know how I can explain this to you. I'd love to give you the history of the Eastern European Jews and all that, but I'm afraid if I do that, it's going to be taken wrong. Let me just put it to you this way. All right? There are a lot of good Israeli people, just like there are a lot of good, Americans, just like there are a lot of good Russians, just like there are a lot of good, whatever. All right? The Mossad, however, is another story. The Mossad's motto is, I forget exactly how it goes, but it's something like, "By deception shalt thou make war." So, but that's the name of the game for all intelligence services. They, in their motto, they're just out front with it. What is their connection? I'll just say this much, okay? My own personal investigation in all this leads me to believe that Western intelligence services, by and large, are together involved in all of these things. They're an entity unto themselves. They answer to no one. They're not regulated. Nobody in government, the governments of the people, oversee them, and that's where the problem is. And there was a writer back in the 1800s that talked about a conspiracy that was rising, and that it would infiltrate all levels of government, okay, and take control. And where's the best place to do that? Where the people have the guns and the information. So you got the military, the police, and of course the intel services. So in that regard, there, if not the entire intelligence service of a country, which of course wouldn't be possible, there is a small group inside that is a problem, and they have unlimited amounts of resources and money. Hey, how much? I think it was $2 trillion missing from the Pentagon the day before 9/11 happened. Rumsfeld announced that, and then after 9/11, nobody remembered it. So that $2 billion went off into a black ops sludge fund somewhere. And then you got the dealing in drugs and all that. And we've talked about that before. Okay. People also say you always talk about problems, no solutions. The solution is that we have to get the people in government out of there. And unfortunately, too many Americans have their hands in the cookie jar, and they're getting help from the government in one way or another. So they'll only go so far. If we don't get everybody in the government out, I'm not talking about changing the structure. If you know anything about me, you should know that I have almost a sacred respect for what our founding fathers did in setting this thing up. But what is presented to the people is not what's in the cookie jar or in the medicine bottle. You know, the bottle has the label on it saying it's one thing, but inside it's something else. And that's the same thing here. We're called the United States, and we seem to have this structure, but it's not operating the way it's supposed to. And the end result is to take your liberties, freedom, and eventually your lives from you. All right? So what is the solution? You got to get away from your TV sets. You got to get away from the seeking of pleasures that I've mentioned before, and take seriously the lives of your posterity into consideration about what's happening today that's going to hurt them tomorrow. And some of it's insidious that you don't even understand. So what's the solution? You have to wake up first. And I know a lot of you probably are, but we need it at all levels. You know, Dr. Carson is a perfect example of somebody who's wide awake. He gave that speech at the National Prayer Breakfast. You know, he talked at the conservative convention in Denver. You know, and I could mention a lot of other names. There are people out there, but you know what? That big bell curve in the middle that everybody's struggling to get a hold of, you guys are the ones that got to wake up. And you know, I know the reality of that. You're not going to. So I know what the end result of this is all going to be. And for those of us who are wet, who wet our pillows. I'm sorry. I'm going to leave this on the video. Who wet our pillows at night with tears over what's happening. You know, your wife never wants you to say, "I told you so." Well, I'm going to tell you, America, I told you so. Sorry I lost it here at the end. Have a good day.